My name is Carolina. I am marketing representative at Florisa. We're a software development and staff augmentation solutions company. Today we're presenting 2021's US in Business Nearshore Outsourcing, presented by Dempsy. He's co-founder and CEO at Biz Latin Hub, which is a company that specializes in helping both local and foreign companies in doing business in Latin America by providing a full suite of back office services. So I'll present the outline of the webinar. Today, our key discussion points are, well, the introduction to Craig, who will do that himself. We'll start over with working remotely, the new normal. How has the pandemic and remote working affected businesses? How is nearshoring different from offshoring? Why do you think we have seen a growing interest in nearshoring as an alternative to offshoring? What is the value of local partner when expanding to Latin America? What options are available to people beyond forming a company overseas in order to access the benefit of nearshoring? And by the end, we'll have a Q&A. As we go through a presentation, if you have any questions, just leave them in the comment box in the right side of the screen, and we'll go through them and discuss them by the end of the presentation. So, yeah, we'll start over with Craig. It's all yours.
Sure. I guess I better find the unmute button to start with. So thanks very much for that. Look, just a quick introduction of myself. I'm Australian. I'm based in Colombia here. Originally, I was an army officer, and then after the military, I was head of various mining companies. Then after that, head of engineering companies. Short time later, found myself establishing a group called Biz Latin Hub, based out of Colombia here. Although since establishing, we now have offices in pretty much every major market within the region. And I've also got some other business interests as well. So I've got a great opportunity from Carolina here to get on this webinar and have a bit of a chat about a few insights and things that we're seeing in the marketplace. So that's pretty much it. So I guess moving on to the first part, working remotely. Clearly, we're living in interesting times at the moment. And I guess not since probably the Industrial Revolution have we seen such a shift in working dynamics. And it's been by necessity rather than choice. And remote working has tested businesses to its limits. And in many cases, that's not due to the physical infrastructure, but more about the fact that companies have still come to this realization: how do they actually manage having a decentralized workforce? How do they manage the person that's at home with their two children, or the other person that's home with their dog and their nanny, etc.? So, that's obviously put these sort of complications with it. And of course, with this, we also see a lack of human interaction. Most people go to work and enjoy that team sort of atmosphere. So it's a double-edged sword, whether it's this has brought the additional stress on the home front by people working from home, or in many other cases, a better work-life balance. But what we've seen is workforces have adapted, overcome, and been quite resilient. Although interestingly, there's a Forbes study published recently that when things are possible, that only 9% of people actually wanted to continue working full-time from home, and 91% of people wanted some sort of hybrid model. So I can't see yourself going back to what we used to do. However, it will definitely not be just a work from home future for us all, and thank God for that from my perspective anyway. So sort of moving on, how has that actually affected businesses? Well, it has affected businesses differently, and specifically for those operating in, let's say, the tourism or hospitality businesses, they've been significantly affected, and many businesses have gone, bankrupt. However, those that have been run well, in many cases, have managed to be resilient and continue through this. Let's sort of linking back to the work from home thing. Only 12 to 18 months ago, we had this idea that everybody had to go to a central place. And in that central place, the office, that's where they would work. However, with the current times, businesses are becoming more open-minded on how they operate. And they're actually looking, well, can I actually hire a person in the next county or in the next state? Or do I want to look at a workforce in a different country? So it's definitely changed the way in which businesses look at their workforce. And it's making them more flexible. And I guess that sort of links into what we'll be talking about, whether nearshoring, offshoring, etc., because many businesses are now trying to take advantage of talent. wherever that may be, not specifically in the actual office place. So sort of moving on to, what are the options? We hear these things between nearshoring and offshoring. What is actually the difference here and what are they? Now, the terminology realistically, is open for interpretation. And it very much depends on where you're based, on what's nearshore, what's offshore, etc. But looking at this, in a very simple, in a North American context, okay, what does this all actually mean? Nearshoring and offshoring, the same thing is where they look to use services in another jurisdiction for a benefit. Okay, and in the nearshoring context, that would be very much outsourcing to Latin America, or perhaps to a lesser extent, the Caribbean. And that could be Colombia, for a perfect example, where I'm sitting today. And unfortunately, in Bogota, it's overcast and cloudy. Conversely, it could be Mexico, which is obviously one of the largest, or if not largest, trading partner already with the US, and some other popular jurisdictions, Costa Rica, Argentina, Peru. Whereas looking at offshoring, traditionally has meant Asia, and to a lesser extent, of course, Africa. So, whether that be, let's think, China, India, Philippines, etc. So when someone's deciding where to look at, where to go, what are the principles they're looking at? I guess they're looking at proximity. They're looking at cultural values, language, time zone, the economic stability. But realistically, there are two main things. Companies choose to offshore because it's cheaper, whereas companies will look for nearshoring mainly to complement their operations. Okay, and that's the principal difference between the two. So, why are we seeing a greater interest in nearshoring at the moment? It's simple. Offshoring over the years has simply not met expectations. Planned savings haven't come to fruition. The quality of services provided has not been sufficiently good. And bridging that cultural gap, particularly someone sitting in, let's say, Florida or Texas or in Toronto, bridging that cultural gap with somebody sitting in India or the Philippines has in many ways just been too difficult for both the company and for their clients. So that's why we're seeing a greater interest in nearshoring at the moment. And this rethink, I guess, has been accelerated by COVID. Obviously, that's had a significant impact, and people are looking closer to home. The deteriorating trade relationships between the US and China. And I guess one of the last ones would be significant US immigration reforms over the years has made it more difficult for talent to relocate to the US itself. Okay, a recent study by Bank of America Global Research indicated that over 80% of US companies right now operating in Asia are looking to reshore their operations, meaning take them from Asia and bring them back to the US. Now, being practical here, taking from Asia and bringing your business, whatever that may be, back to the US has significant cost implications, which may make it not feasible. Or conversely, having the simple access to that talent and availability, noting the actual unemployment rate already in the US is quite low. So, I strongly believe, and I think many of my colleagues do as well, that LATAM is a strong alternative as a middle scenario. And why is that? Competitive costs, market stability, attractive fiscal regime, access to talent. Obviously, foreign trade agreements are quite common across the region. And I guess most simple is cultural links. There are significant cultural links these days between North America and South America. For myself, I don't have a friend here in Colombia that doesn't have a relative or friend living in the US. There's also people in the US, there's a strong interest in the region down here. So that cultural links do go a long way. And especially when clients are looking for, let's say, a call center or tech support or something, in many cases, they're wanting to have something they can relate with. And that's why I believe Latin America presents a very interesting opportunity. Nearshoring to Latin America is very much a midway solution for those companies trying to reshore their operations. And there's a lot of advantages, to reduce cultural and language differences. Obviously, Spanish is becoming more common in the US, English more common in Latin America, the same time zone. There's a greater regulatory alignment between the jurisdictions, less risk to intellectual property. I think we all hear the stories of companies entering, particularly China, and having a lot of concerns about whether their trade secrets will be stolen. And of course, the cost. With the strength of the US dollar at the moment, it does make Latin America attractive and also an inhibitor for those companies to actually return and reshore back in the US. What are some recent indicators, just for example, the business process outsourcing industry in Bogota, according to Invest Bogota, has increased 16% in recent times. There's also been the Association of Latin American Free Trade Zones recently launched Relocate LATAM website to try and encourage those companies looking to come back from Asia to the US to consider Latin America as a nearshoring jurisdiction. Another example that we see here at BizLatin Hub, we see a lot of US companies that simply can't find the talent they're looking for in the US. And historically, what they've done is they've looked down towards Latin America, they found the person they want or persons they're looking for, and they would relocate them to the US to work within their US operations. What we're finding now is with immigration reforms, etc., it's becoming quite difficult. So instead, those companies are either doing one of two things. They're either coming to Latin America and contracting a service provider in order to provide those services they need, or B, they're looking to find those people down here and they're actually setting a center of excellence and hiring those people to be basically based down in Latin America and support the US operations. So we're seeing more and more of that at the moment. So with that said, for a company looking to do that, whether they're looking to contract a local provider down here, alternatively looking to hire those people, what is the value of working with a local partner? Well, simply put, we don't know what we don't know. And working with a local partner reduces risk. And of course, it makes it faster. And in many cases, your opportunity cost is time. Okay? How do we do it when we work with a client at BizLatin Hub? Well, the first thing we do is we work with our client to help them to understand the local market and then to bring that plan to fruition. And we do that ourselves by providing integrated market research, accounting, legal, and recruitment services, but on a regional level. We're one of the few companies that can actually offer a support package that covers almost the entire region. Okay, how specifically do we do this? Well, firstly, we sit down with the client. We understand what they actually want to achieve in the region and why. And based on that and our local knowledge, we basically present a solution that meets their needs. We support them to implement that solution, and then we continue with the ongoing support so they achieve business success. So with that said, what options exist for a company rather than forming and establishing a local legal entity? Okay, traditionally what would happen? Large company, big CEO would say, I want to nearshore operations in Colombia, Peru, wherever it may be. They would come down to this part of the world, they would incorporate a local entity, they'd either start hiring people or they contract a services provider. Okay, now that's great, and it's a very, very good solution. But what we're seeing more recently, and particularly it's been accelerated by COVID, is we're seeing more small to mid-sized companies considering nearshoring as a feasible option. And being frank, as small to mid-sized companies, a lot of them have more modest funding. And they also don't have the capability to make these significant commitments up front. So looking to very much dip their toe in the water. Okay, so what they're doing is they're coming down to this region, identifying a local partner like Plurisa, and they're contracting them to provide those services. Or even more so, what we're seeing is they're coming down to this region, they're looking for specific talent, whether they be developers, coders, salespeople, etc. Okay, and they're basically working with the third parties, such as BizLatin Hub, in order to hire these people through a professional employer organization, or PEO, meaning the third party hires these people on behalf of the client, and it means they don't have to establish a local entity, they don't have to commit for the long term, And what we're seeing, more and more companies adopting that hiring through a PO arrangement. It's quite attractive, and it's offering a lot of benefits for those companies. I mean, what are some simple examples? We're working with a tech company at the moment that's looking for Salesforce developers in El Salvador. We're working with another tech company looking for developers and coders in Costa Rica. A UK engineering company that's looking for salespeople in Mexico at the moment. And I guess the last thing, just on a personal thing, that we're seeing a number of Latinos from the US actually returning back to their home countries. And we have one at the moment relocating from California back to Chile. However, they're continuing to work for their US parent company. So they're basically looking for a PO type model in order to continue being employed by that parent company. So it's another thing we're seeing as well, which is interesting. But overall, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for supporting, particularly North American companies during this, I guess, extraction from Asia, and obviously Latin America presenting a very, very interesting opportunity for providing services to those companies as nearshoring or just as a subcontract.
Thank you so much, Gray, for all this valuable information. Right now, we're turning over to a Q&A session. So I'll be reading the questions, and Gray will continue providing the answers. So if you have any questions, it's your moment to share in the comment box on the right side. So, okay, we have the first question, which is, when it comes to outsourcing technology, what is the difference between offshore and nearshore? Okay, but when it comes to outsourcing technology.
Sorry, it's just a little difficult to actually hear that question. Could you repeat that, please?
Yeah, I understand is the difference between offshore and nearshore, but when it comes to outsourcing technology.
Sure. Look, if you're considering nearshoring and establishing some sort of support operations in Latin America, the reality is you can do it two ways. As I said, you can contract a partner to provide your services, whether it's tech services, software development, whatever the case may be. Or alternatively, you can hire through a PO and you can hire those individuals and build your own team. It very much depends on, are you looking for a package solution that you can plug into your existing business, or you're looking for arms and legs that are effectively an outsource of your workforce. Now, one of the great advantages of Latin America is the fact that IP protection is very good. And the laws are quite strong, so it offers an attractive jurisdiction. And also, NDAs are also quite enforceable compared to some parts of the region. So it's definitely worth considering as a feasible alternative. Basically, both those models, it really depends on what you're trying to achieve, whether you want a package solution or whether you want legs to plug into your business.
Great, thank you so much. Then the next question will be, what are the legal implications when outsourcing in Latin America?
Sure. It depends every case, but simply put, outsourcing services or getting support in Latin America is 100% legal. So it can definitely be done. The only things to be aware of, and it does vary on case by case, is yes, there might be some individual legalities. For example, in Colombia, to have a contract, it should be both English and Spanish. If it's not in Spanish, it's difficult to enforce in the region, as a simple example. And also when dealing with contracts internationally and, I guess, money movements, it's important to always understand the tax implications, more so the withholding tax and whether there's any double taxation agreements, etc., in place. So the simple thing is, nearshoring your services is a great option. It is 100% legal. It's just a matter of understanding what you want to achieve and then sort of getting advice to make sure it happens in the right way.
Great. So then the next question we have is, if I'm looking to outsource to Latin America, which are the steps to follow in terms of planning and looking for partners?
Sure. Look, it's pretty obvious. But the first thing, before you do anything, you need to understand what you're actually trying to achieve. We have a lot of clients that approach us and say, great, I want to do this. And that's all good, but then you ask them the first question, why do you want to do that? And many of them don't actually have any idea. So the first thing you need to understand is what you're actually trying to achieve. Once you understand what you're trying to achieve, it's a matter of then evaluating the options of, I'm going to go establish a company because I'm going to hire a bunch of people and create an office. Or no, I'm going to go to Latin America and I want to hire 4 or 5 individuals to plug into my North American team, and I'll put them in WeWork and hire them through PEO. Or no, that's not a fit. I'm actually looking for a complete software solution and development, etc., and therefore I'm going to contract a company. So really very much understand what you're trying to achieve, and I guess also the time span very much influences what you actually do and how you go about doing it.
Great. So we have a couple more questions. The next one will be, when looking for an outsourcing partner in Latin America, which are the main countries to consider in terms of cost and quality?
Sure, look, it varies depending on what you're looking for. Obviously, if you're looking for a large talent pool, obviously many of the larger jurisdictions would be more suitable, whether that's Brazil, Argentina, Colombia, Mexico. If you're looking for a small number of people, you might find actually some of the smaller jurisdictions may be more attractive. Particularly from a cost point of view. I mean, Peru has a number of excellent attributes that makes it very attractive for hiring a smaller number of people. Conversely, if you're looking for language skills, you might actually be pivoting more towards, let's say, Costa Rica, where English is very, very common. So really, which jurisdiction, yes, price is one, but in many cases it's dependent. We worked with a very, very large tech company recently, and we basically did a small study for them where they asked us to say, look, based on what we're looking for, which was fundamentally around availability of specific talent, which would be the jurisdiction for us. And it's not always the largest economy because you have a lot of more competing interests. But the good thing about it is Latin America has a broad range of countries that all have their own independent benefits.
Great. So we have this question duplicated, which is, what is the main reason for choosing Colombia as a country to outsource services?
Sure. Look, I'm in Colombia now, and I know you are as well, Carolina. So I guess we can be biased and say that's because Colombia is the best. I'm not sure about that. Let's just say that. Look, Colombia is a great option. Look, it's quite a stable economy. At the moment, particularly with the strength of the US dollar, it's quite attractive from a price point of view. It's quite a large economy and has a large number of people, so you can access talent. So there's a lot of benefits going for it. With that said, one of the negatives to Colombia is because it is quite an attractive jurisdiction, you do have a bit of competition for perhaps sometimes the same talent, which is something to keep in mind, which is sometimes why some of the smaller jurisdictions can be a good alternative. But no, I would definitely encourage companies when they're looking at the different options in the region, Colombia should definitely be considered.
Great. So then the next question will be, what's your expectation for nearshore growth in Latin America for 2021?
Sure. Look, as I mentioned before, there is significant interest from North American companies to bring their operations back from Asia towards North America. Now, the simple thing is, we all know at some point a lot of those companies won't be able to afford or simply won't find the talent in North America for that. Or when I say that, I should say more the US and Canada. So they will look for nearshoring. Okay, so it presents an amazing opportunity. And I think those countries that have more educated and I guess available workforces will be the ones that take advantage of that. So those countries that have really invested in education and the people of those countries, I think will have a significant opportunity, and this will be very much a changing evolution that we will see in the coming years. And I think this is back to the point on Colombia. I think that's one of the main things that Colombia will push for. And I know that particularly I think it's Invest in Pacifico. Is a trade body here on the coast. And I know they're putting a massive emphasis at the moment to try and encourage those North American companies to consider that region. And I know it's pretty similar for a lot of the other investment bodies. So I'm positive, just for ourselves as BizLatin Hub, we're seeing strong growth this year. We even saw it last year. because I think Latin America does in itself present itself quite well to the region. Of course, it's got some complications, everything from governments through to, some other things as well. But, all in all, I think it's a great proposition and possibility for those North American companies.
Great. I'm also positive about it because we're in the industry for those kind of services as well. But we'll jump up to the last question, which is, do you believe that platforms like Deal offer real advantages when it comes to compliance and payments?
I'm not familiar with the platform off the top of my head.
Okay.
However, look, keeping it quite simple, I think we all know, anybody that has any familiarity with Latin America realizes that the financial system, whether that banking or just simple transfer platforms, has some improvement. And there's definitely some efficiencies to be gained there. So, I think any company that can bring efficiencies to the market and to make it far more user-friendly, I think will be very well sought after within the region here, and it's something globally as well. So, I think there's a lot of opportunity to not only nearshore, but also to actually sell within the region as well. As I mentioned before, we have a UK client at the moment that's trying to hire a bunch of salespeople in Mexico to also sell to the region. So, nearshoring is not simply always about outsourcing, it also can be about outsourcing and selling locally.
Okay, thank you so much. Then this will be the end of the webinar. Craig, we truly appreciate your collaboration with Clarissa during this event. And thank you everyone else for joining and for all your questions. We really enjoyed this 30-minute sections. And I hope we can keep in touch. Follow us on social media. We'll keep posting everything related to the topic and maybe to get to know more about Clarissa as well and today's webinar. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thanks very much, everybody. Take care.
Bye.